Hello, companions. I am so excited for you to hear this episode. It is about a new podcast that I am hosting, and we are talking to the co-host of that podcast who will be doing it with me. A lot of you have already found out about it from Instagram and congratulated me, and I love you and thank you so much. How Come's not going anywhere, don't worry. It's probably even going to get better. And yeah, you're going to hear all about what this new podcast is. Trigger warning, we are talking about bodies, weight, eating disorders, diet culture, etc. So if any of that is too tough for you, definitely take some time for yourself. But we're really excited to share this episode with you. There is sex in it because bodies and sex are related. Stay tuned for a little thing after the episode with just me and Robin. It's going to be after the outro in the Marvel section, if you know it. We're talking about my Halloween costume, which has a lot of House of Dragon spoilers. Okay, and you guys are going to love this episode, and it's a very familiar face and voice that you'll be hearing. So I hope you enjoy, and here we go.
How come? How come? How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
Today's guest has been on the podcast twice, but now is back as the host of a new old podcast with me.
The next generation.
Yeah, the Degrassi next generation of Diet Starts Tomorrow, starring Remy Casimir and Emily Lubin. Welcome, Emily Lubin.
Thank you for having me on, Remy. I always love being on How Come, and I love the companions.
And they love you.
I love their companionship.
Yeah, so this is probably jarring for some companions because they're like, wait, Remy's hosting another podcast. What does that mean? What does that mean for How Come? Is How Come going away? Let's just get that out of the way. It is not. I actually think that this podcast is going to make How Come more rich. And we'll get to that. But what, to the people who have never listened to Diet Starts Tomorrow, what is Diet Starts Tomorrow? And how did they approach you as a host?
Diet Starts Tomorrow is a podcast that's existed for, I think, about 4 years. And it's on the Betches Media Network. So Betches is, for those who don't know, it is a media company here in New York City.
I actually had an episode, How Betchy, with Sammy Sage, one of the CEOs of Betches, who also is one of the founders of Diet Starts Tomorrow, along with Aileen, one of the other founders of Betches.
And they have a ton of podcasts. And Diet Starts Tomorrow is actually one of their flagship podcasts. It's one of their oldest ones, and one of their most popular.
And them two were like, we've done this for such a long time. They've got other projects that they're working on.
Yeah, these ladies run a company.
Yeah.
And honestly, the fact that they were podcasting twice a week for almost 4 years is really impressive to me.
Yeah.
But I completely understand, it gets to a certain point and you feel like passing the torch. And I'm very, very thankful that we're the ones that they're passing the torch to, because so far it's great.
Yeah.
I feel like so far what we've done and what we've recorded, it hasn't been that many shows yet, but I feel like we're already able to have really honest conversations and nuanced conversations about body image.
Okay, I was going to say about what, because we haven't really been.
Oh, yes. So Diet Starts Tomorrow is primarily about navigating diet culture, but it has expanded to encompass kind of all aspects of health and wellness.
Yeah.
So we are not limited to talking about body image or talking about food or fitness, but I still do think that is the main draw of the show. And
is your relationship with your body and other people's bodies, and what we learned from diet culture before, how to unlearn a lot of that now. And I was going to say, I feel like that's how I feel it ties into How Come, is like, the companions have seen my progress. And in the beginning, it was massive, like exponential, right? Like 0 to 120. And then for a while, it kind of tapered off. I was sitting at 120, and then maybe I have a little bump and maybe a little one after that. But for a while, I haven't been exploring as much as I would like to. And a lot of that is because of my terrible relationship with my body. It doesn't allow me to do certain things. One of them, I really want to go to a sex party. I want to like bang with Ben in front of other people. But at the same time, I can't even get myself to go to a regular party sometimes because I'm like, I am not presentable to the world.
Same.
But it's stuff that I have to get over. And that's what I think will be really helpful talking to you, because you've had RIP diets for
about 2.5 years. Yeah. And that's my podcast. You've been a guest on that podcast.
Yeah.
You actually, it's one of the most memorable interviews for me.
No
and
way.
I'll tell you why. I grew up kind of like the ugly duckling, kind of like always overlooked, always being compared to my older sister. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective, that was just the worst thing. I always wanted to be my sister. I always wanted to be doted on and praised and told I was pretty, you know?
Yeah.
And you come on, and your story is basically about being overpraised when you were growing up for being pretty and for being beautiful and for your physical appearance. Mm-hmm. And from my perspective, I was just like, wow, I didn't realize how much that could fuck somebody up. Like I knew the other thing could fuck you up, but I didn't know that too much emphasis on these things that could fuck you up just as much.
Yeah.
Children are like sponges. They absorb everything. And if somebody from a very, very young age is constantly being praised for being pretty and then suddenly they're not, of course that's going to have
go through an awkward phase. Yeah.
As everybody does.
That's the only thing that's praised when you're like, wait, that's not the thing that I think is the coolest about me.
Yeah.
Okay. So DST has been running all this time. They reach out to you.
Yeah. So I got a DM from our now producer.
Shout out to Sean. Sorry, Rob.
I'm heartbroken.
We're not cheating. It's just a different thing.
If anything, we're polyamorous.
We're poly.
Like, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he reached out to me, but they did want 2 people. Mm-hmm. And honestly, you were top of my list because you are a curious person. You ask questions.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm very analytical. I like to get, in the muck with things. I like to dissect
killed the cat.
Yes. Oh, hi, Grace. Curiosity won't kill you. But yeah. And I really felt like a co-host needed to be somebody who's sensitive, mm-hmm. which you are, sensitive and empathetic, but also curious and not afraid to have friendly arguments, I would say. Not afraid to have a different opinion than me. I don't want to talk to somebody who's just going to echo chamber every single thing that I say. I want to have, spirited discussions about things and really talk about them and get down to the bottom of it. So
we've already had many spirited discussion, you guys. Go check them out.
Yeah.
And you probably thought of me because I send you insane amounts of body related, diet related, fat phobia related content.
I forgot about that actually. That was what put it over the edge for me because I needed, so yes, we needed somebody who was curious, empathetic, analytical, opinionated, but also interested in the topic, open to learning more about the topic. I'm always trying to learn more, even though I feel like I know a lot. There's still so much that I don't know, so many perspectives that I don't know. And I needed somebody who had an open mind because, it's a very hot topic of conversation now, how diet culture is fucking us up, how it's everywhere, how we need to rebel against it, but not everybody is willing.
People are mad at body positivity.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I mean, it's getting to the point now where I think what's happening is a lot of the extremists are making the movement into something that it's not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like a difficult thing for me to boil down and talk about now because I think I want to move on to other things. But I'm noticing that too. I'm noticing a lot of people have the wrong idea about what body positivity is.
I think what's going to be really cool is like, I will be held accountable to speak differently and feel differently. Like the way that How Come has done it for me with sex has gotten so much easier to talk about, like I check myself when it comes to certain language, like I feel like I've grown a lot, and it's because of like the standards that the companions keep me to. And I feel like this is a thing that like I'm very guilty of negative self-talk. I'm very guilty of body checking, which is what we talked about. Like I'll walk by mirrors and stuff. And they're just things that I need to address and be held accountable to so that I can like get out of this perpetual body dysmorphia funk, maybe incorporate some exercise, and actually learn about what is healthy. Like we've been raised to think like skinny is good. Okay. Then you learn things about the obesity paradox where it's like, okay, if you're heavier, then you're actually more likely to survive surgery. Okay. So does that mean that's healthier? Like, well, I want to have more experts coming in. I know Aileen, one of the former hosts, was like, don't push experts, but those are the people that have been so helpful to me on this podcast. Yeah. So I think what's going to be really fun about our format is that like we do our episodes alone first. Like we just did our fitness episode where we talk about our journeys and stuff. And like we ask a bunch of questions. And then next week we'll have experts to actually answer those questions, and then questions that you guys have. And we can all just like learn together.
Yeah. I'm with you. I love the structure that we're attempting to maintain. And I love talking to experts too. I think what's so great is that we also get to choose who we talk to, because, somebody could be an expert, but they could still be really fat phobic. I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, just because you're a doctor does not mean you have very much education in nutrition or very much understanding of the way bodies work in that regard. Or
you're just a human being as well. Maybe you happen to be a misogynist human being. We talk about a doctor that I went to this episode. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So everybody can listen to our first episode and stuff, but basically what has been your journey with your body? Are you good with it? How long did it take you to get good with it?
I have a better relationship with my body than I ever thought was even possible. I never thought it was possible to be at peace with my body. That's not to say that I don't have bad body image days or I don't have moments. I mean, we're going through this thing right now where we're selecting images of us for the artwork.
Yes.
And I mean, it's all coming up for me. I said to you earlier today, I was like, I'm trying to not read into it. I know it's not that big of a deal, but like my head looks like a Rubik's Cube,
Right. And I wrote to you and I was like, I feel so like hypocritical saying this, but I don't like the angle of this. And my chin looks like this or whatever. And I'm like, how am I even saying this about a podcast that's about not caring about what you look like? But it's part of it. Like even, my struggles with being in the studio. We're now being filmed during this podcast. And like, for how come only Patreon sees us, they see me in my bedroom. It's fine. We're in a studio now where we've got lights on us. It's hot
lights.
I'm sweating my ass off every day. I'm like, not every day, but every time I'm in there. And
my cheeks turn bright red.
Trying to talk about feeling good about my body, but also thinking about how I'm coming off in the moment, which has gotten a little heady.
Absolutely. I've seen videos of myself podcasting. My mouth contorts in all these weird shapes that I didn't even know it could make. I told you.
Because you know that I get distracted by mouths.
Wait, do you really?
Yeah, I told you that.
I don't remember you telling me that. Do you get
Emily,
distracted by my?
I literally said, I think I'm nervous about this because there's some people whose mouths I get distracted by in their podcast clips. And I don't want to become someone whose mouth people are mad at.
Remy, do you get distracted by my mouth?
Not yet.
Okay.
But
you need to tell me if you do, because that's hilarious.
Is that fair?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine.
Wow. See, this is going to be a very open podcast, you guys.
Yes. That's another thing that I love about our dynamic. I feel like we both can make fun of ourselves. And I really hate when you listen to a podcast and you can tell that somebody takes themselves way too seriously. Yeah. It's just not fun.
That's the other thing too.
Is fun,
This podcast is fun. And because we can talk to each other in this way, like I love that I could admit it's not just actually my relationship with my own body, I feel bad because of how I judge others sometimes. That's also a thing I need to unlearn. And I know a lot of people are going through that, and it's probably going to be like, oh, well, you shouldn't. And I'm like, I know I shouldn't. It's almost like an intrusive thought.
It is an intrusive thought. But
it's not something we can just ignore. It's not going to change if you ignore it.
No, you can't just ignore it. I think when things like that come up, a lot of us are really quick to be like, oh, that's ugly. I want to shut that away. I don't want to look at that. But it's not really until you look at your own negative behavior that you can change it. I mean, I remember several years ago, I had a moment. I was at the early stages of recovery from my eating disorder. And, basically at that point, I was allowing all foods. I didn't have a limit. It was kind of a free for all. I mean, it still is, but at that time I felt very out of control. Okay. And I was walking down the subway stairs.
And you were like, how old?
I think I was 26 or 27. And I was walking down the subway stairs, and there was a really heavy woman walking ahead of me, and I couldn't really get by her. And she was really taking her time. I was about to miss the train. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not going to say anything to her. I'm not nasty, but I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, just move the fuck out of the way. Like, you're so fat, like it just was visceral
and mean. Yeah.
And so mean mean. And why the fact that I would have a thought like that when for 20 years of my life, people probably thought that about me sometimes. That's scary, because that means I still have internalized fat phobia. I still judge people and I have those ugly thoughts. And I had to really look inward and be like, okay, why do I feel like I need to do that? Does it have to do with me? Is it how you were treated when you were over? Or see, this is something we're going to talk about too. I don't even know what verbiage we want to use. To be honest, I don't either, because when I was growing up, it was always you're overweight or you're not. You're overweight. And
I had a parent say to me, because I would always say, I'm fat. And the parent would say, you're not fat, you're overweight. As if that has a different connotation, as if that is said with a less negative undertone.
I've started trying to say I used to have a larger body. But that even feels weird to me because I really didn't. I was young.
Because you were a child.
Yeah. It was actually probably around the same size, if I'm being honest.
And you grew up as, I'm going to say, a cute fat kid. Can we make that positive?
Fat, to me, I have trouble with it because I didn't even encounter anybody using the word fat in a neutral way or a positive way until like 2 years ago. Like, me with that word, I could never just, unless I know that person is like, I'm a proud fat woman, or, I identify as fat, then I could be like, oh, my fat friend. But if it's somebody who I know doesn't like that word or has negative feelings about that word, I would never be like, yeah, my fat friend said this. You know what I mean? It has a different vibe.
Yeah.
I know that skinny shaming is not a good feeling either. I know that there are kids in school that are really, rail skinny and they get teased for it. And that doesn't feel good. I think, and I've tried to educate myself about the difference because I feel like it's different, but I only know my own experience. And, and now I this is how I conceptualize this. It's like, yes, skinny shaming does not feel good either. However, a fat person's place in society at large is much more treacherous than that of a person who's very skinny. So somebody teasing you for your weight when you're fat, it feels more like a personal attack, and it's reinforced by all of these things that we've already put in place. Like there are people who need to buy 2 seats on an airplane just to take up space on an airplane. They need seatbelt adapters in their cars. to lengthen the seatbelt. They need to buy extra things. They need to shop at different stores. So somebody saying like, oh, you're a big fat piece of shit is reinforcing all of those things that you're already experiencing. Whereas a thin person, their place in society, they can move throughout the world much more easily.
It doesn't become an accessibility factor.
Right. I remember when we were in high school, there was a class field trip, an overnight field trip to Carmel, New York. And we had to do all these team building exercises. So there was one exercise that we had to do. I was put in a group where we had to all get on this giant seesaw. There were, I think there were like, 15 of us or something. And we all had to balance out on this seesaw. So the heavier people couldn't walk as far to the edge, and the lighter people could walk pretty much all the way to the edge. And that's kind of how you balance the weight. And I remember the panic, just knowing that I had to participate in this. And the way that my classmates wanted to do it was they were like, let's all get in pairs with people who are a similar size as us. And then we'll get on the seesaw and then we'll walk out and then it'll stay balanced. I hope I'm explaining this.
I completely understand. I'm picturing it like you're splitting up a bag of weed and you're like, all right, we get 2 big nuggets on each side. Okay, 2 little nuggets on each. All right, these 2 are kind of equated to this one.
I love relating it back to weed. That's a language that everyone can understand. Yeah. I love it. So, nobody in my group was even close to the same size as me. I was bigger than everybody in that group. So I remember kind of standing there. It was probably only a couple seconds before somebody volunteered to be my partner, but it felt like an eternity. It felt like, oh my God, if I could just opt out of this, I would, but I can't.
That is traumatizing because it's already sucks to be like the last one picked for dodgeball. It's like now we're assessing you on your body.
Exactly. It was traumatizing.
That's
it really
traumatizing.
Was. And there were a lot of moments like that. There were a lot of moments where like, I wouldn't even want to participate in things just because, just based on the possibility that an awkward moment could come up or that my weight would become an issue or because it never wasn't an issue. I don't think I had a single day between the age of like 8 years old and 18 years old. I don't think I had a single day where I didn't encounter some obstacle because of my weight.
Wow. And we've spoken about this, but was it mostly family that was making you feel bad or?
It's hard to say exactly because I think a lot of the stuff that we learn and like these beliefs that we have about ourselves, often that's because of behavior that's modeled to you, not necessarily things that are told to you. And they're like these cues that things you see and things you pick up on that aren't necessarily explicitly said to you.
Like they can come home and call somebody else a disgusting fat schlub or something like that. And you're like, wait, I look like that person.
Yes. That happened a lot. Like this is like possibly a toxic trait of mine, but I remember pretty much everything that anyone's ever said to me. Same. Like if we had a conversation, I remember exactly what you said. And like, I remember my sister had a friend who, by the way, was not a fat girl. She was not. She just was a little bit bigger than my sister's other friends, but gorgeous. And she lost a great deal of weight toward the end of high school. And I remember my sister and my mom talking about it with each other. And my mom said to my sister something like, oh, well, she was always pretty. Like, I'm not saying she wasn't pretty, but now you can see how pretty she is. And that stayed with me for so many years. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So it's not that I'm ugly. It's that since I'm fat, it doesn't matter if I'm attractive.
Because no one can see me.
Yeah, no one can see me. And like those subliminal messages were just constant. I mean, I remember shopping for a prom dress, and my mom said I couldn't get a certain prom dress unless I was a size 8. Like, just fucked up, like, double standards. My sister got to go on all these shopping trips and get new clothes all the time. And I didn't really ever get to do that. Why would you
buy clothes for an invisible person?
Exactly. And I think that kind of was my mom's thinking. Like, after I lost a lot of weight, she did take me dress shopping. And I remember her saying to the clerk, like, oh, she's never really had this experience before because, like, she lost a lot of weight. So, you know, stuff like that. Totally. Just never, it just always made me feel invisible.
Yeah. We're going to have like a shopping episode about when you can't, when you can't find clothes that fit.
I hate it. I mean, I have so many memories from high school of going with my friends to the Galleria Mall, and we would go to Forever 21, and this was way before they carried plus sizes. So, you know, I would find one single thing in a size large that I could squeeze into, and my friends would have like 50 things, and they didn't limit what you brought in the dressing room. So they would have piles of clothes, and then I would try on my one sad shirt. Maybe I'd buy it.
Yeah.
But I kind of like maybe liked
something from the store.
Exactly. And then I would just do laps around the jewelry and the accessories until my friends were done. And, you know, there were stores in that mall that were plus size stores, but I would never want to go in there because my friends weren't shopping there, which is another reason why I get pissed off when people say, you know, why can't plus size people just shop at plus size stores? Like, why do we need plus size sections in regular stores? It's because
they're people.
Separate is not equal.
Right. Yeah. Separate. It's going to be all old women's stores and like.
Yeah. It was only like
just like stuff you don't want to wear. Do you know what stuck with me that somebody in my family said at one point was weight ages you. And they were talking about someone who also had lost weight. And they were like, and she looks so much younger now because weight really ages you. And I remember anytime, like we've talked about I've always been afraid of aging as a woman, you know, like, and then it's like, did you know that your age can be increased by if you eat more? Like, oh no,
yeah, that's so funny because that's not true, by the way. I actually think when women age and they're too skinny, they start to look a little gaunt. That happens. I mean, it depends.
People look different, and it's like these blanket statements just aren't helping anyone, basically.
Right.
And Another family thing is everybody knows Nanny, my sweet little bed person Nanny.
So sweet.
She was a very heavy woman. And what was wonderful about Nanny is she had the best confidence. She loved herself. And she would always say to all of us, this thing that now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, even that's a little messed up, is she'd go, I look in the mirror and I see a size 8. Where she was much bigger than that. And she was just saying, you know, when I look at myself, I see something smaller. I see something beautiful. And I remember that other family members would laugh at that and go, imagine thinking a size 8 is thin.
Oh.
You know, so it's like these weird things coming from all angles. And like this one shining beacon of actual confidence is like talked shit on by others, but also even herself, really. She's not saying, I look in the mirror and I love myself. She says, I look in the mirror and I see something better than myself.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Do you think it was like, did she used to be smaller when she was younger? Do you think it was like she sees a version of herself that's less aged? Or do you think it was just like,
I don't know. I think it was an association with, I see myself as thinner and better. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's really wonderful. I think, that generation, I mean, our generation's fucked up, but that generation is extremely fucked up. Like my grandma, you can't really talk to her about any of this stuff. She just doesn't really absorb it the same way. And her mother was the worst. My great grandmother. Oh my God. I only met her a couple times, but she ridiculed me for my weight. Oof. And she did not think it was a problem.
Yeah.
Because I think in her generation, and especially she was a Southern woman, very outspoken, you know, she would just walk around and she would say whatever she thought about anybody, anybody. She'd point out the window to a man across the street and be like, wow, how'd he get his fat ass across the street? You know, like she just didn't have a filter. And on a certain level, I respect it because she didn't give a fuck. But like, I remember I was meeting her for the first time and I decided, it was her 90th birthday. So as a 90th birthday gift, I decided to do a little performance art for her.
Great.
And I did like a little song and dance type thing, a little skit.
Okay.
And she says nothing. And then after I'm done, she turns to somebody, maybe my mom, I'm not sure, but right in front of me, she says to the person, wow, she's sure got a lot of energy for someone with so much meat on her bones. And like, I don't think she thought it was an insult. This is the craziest thing to me. I think she just thought like, well, how could I not say something? How could I not comment on it? You know, because that's how she was raised.
I try to give leeway to the people who have said stuff to me because I'm like, oh, they probably had way worse shit said to them, which doesn't like justify it. I'm not trying to be like, yeah, just stay like that. But it explains it a little more to me. And it like makes me feel a little more hopeful that like we can be a little better than the last one. You know, every generation should get a little better, a little less toxic and learn from the one before.
I think so too. And I have given this more thought now that I'm in my 30s and now that I feel not emotionally, but physically ready to have children. And I think I probably will in the next, 5 years. But I've thought like, I actually might have an advantage in knowing what not to do. Like, I think that I already have very concrete ideas about how I'm going to talk to my children about their bodies and how I'm going to treat food.
I won't have kids until I stop only calling Grace beautiful. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm literally working on it with my cat being like, and smart
and capable.
Yeah.
You're the woman from The Help. You was smart.
You was kind.
You was important.
Yeah. So that's so tough to grow up, feeling that way and going to stores where you're feeling left out and having shit said to you. So when was it around that you got sick? And then when did you finally enter into recovery? And if you don't mind expanding on the sickness, we can do that too.
Yeah, sure. The timeline gets confusing for people because I've had every issue that you can think of when it comes to food. So like I said, when I was a heavier child.
Which is really natural.
Oh, it's totally natural.
People expect she was only anorexic. Oh, she's only bulimic. Oh, she's only a binge eater. Like a lot of times you're a combo.
Yeah. And, that's a hard question for me to answer without getting too much in detail. Like when I'm in a social setting and not that it comes up that often in a social setting, but when it does, if somebody asks me, well, what did you have? I always say, well, I guess mostly bulimia, but really everything. And I almost feel like that negates the validity of my experience sometimes because people are like, oh, well, you didn't really have a thing. You just were confused or whatever. Or maybe people don't think that and I'm just being self-conscious, but I will give you the rundown.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, my mom was a binge eater. She would hide food under her bed and oftentimes, everybody knew about it. We would make fun of her for it. We'd walk into her room sometimes without knocking and see her very quickly put the tub of ice cream under the bed.
It away. Yeah.
Yeah. But she ate very little meals around us. Like she wasn't such a big eater because she was saving up. It was a ritual that she would do by herself. And I think that I adopted a lot of that behavior. I would get up in the middle of the night and like go try to make pancakes and fuck it up. And then just like cut off a cube of cheese, like a block of cheese and eat it. Like it was always in secret. I would hoard my Halloween candy. So the only thing that would comfort me was food. And it's always been that thing for me. I don't have a very addictive personality. And I've never been addicted to drugs or alcohol, but food is just, it's always been my thing. Then,
sugar or all food?
All food.
All food.
I mean,
because sugar I know is very addictive.
Well, here's the thing about sugar. A lot of people do think it's addictive, but I really don't think it's addictive.
This is why we're hosting this together. How exciting. Yeah. Go on.
I think that people's behavior around sugary foods can seem addictive, but I think it's because of restriction that they're putting on themselves, or negative associations
the
they have with
sugar.
Yeah. So there's physical restriction and there's mental restriction. Physical restriction is if you were like, okay, I'm going to eliminate all the sugary snacks from my house so that I don't have any access to them. Well, then what's going to happen is you're going to go to a birthday party. There's going to be a Carvel ice cream cake, and you're going to eat half the cake by yourself
100%.
Because you haven't given yourself access. Mental restriction is a little bit different in that you might not be limiting your intake of something at all. But if you have the mentality while you're eating it, like, oh, I really shouldn't be eating this. Oh, I'm being so bad. Oh, well, I'll be better later. I'll make up for it. You are setting yourself up to not feel satisfied by that food. And then you're going to binge. And I think, yeah,
Emily, you're so smart.
Oh my God. Thank you. Well, I've like looked into this stuff.
I know.
Well, I just don't think that sugar can really be addictive, because if sugar was addictive, then, I have these Reese's cups on my counter, and if I eat one of them, wouldn't I just need more? Like if I was addicted to it, if the substance itself was addicting, wouldn't I not be able to stop? But I used to not be able to stop because I was trying to restrict certain things. So they had more power over me.
Got it.
But to circle back, so I yo-yoed up and down. Like there were some times, especially in high school when you grow a lot, where I was less fat and then I was more fat. And it kind of was always, but I was always in that overweight BMI range, which is also bullshit, which we can get into. But then when I was in college, my sister got engaged. And I didn't even put this together for the longest time, but knowing my history with like how envious I was of my sister and how I always felt like she got this attention that I didn't get, that it makes perfect sense why this triggered me so much. But I was her maid of honor. And from the beginning of the wedding planning process, my mom would do this thing where she would say, I think we all should get in really good shape for the wedding. And I knew that it was directed at me because they were in perfect shape. They didn't need to get in shape. The only person who, quote, needed to get in shape was me. I hated it so much. And
Let's be each other's accountability people. No, I didn't ask you.
I don't want that. And
although, wait, I will say, Gabrielle Bluestone, our friend who we know and love, texted me last night that she wants to work on the splits.
Okay.
She wants to do the splits. She wants to do a 30-day splits challenge. She texted me last night. She said, can we be each other's splits accountability people? I said, I can agree to splits.
You know what? That's fun. Can you almost do a split, or can you not do it at all?
Oh, no. Can I try?
You can try now.
Okay. So I used to be able to at least do a front split on the right side.
I've never been able to do it.
Okay. Can you see? I can kind of.
Yeah, kind of
in a split.
You're also on a bed, so it's like
I'm also in a bed.
Yeah, it's harder, I think, on a bed. No, but that's pretty good. I've never been able to do it.
I think what we're aiming for though is side splits. Kyle Richards splits.
Oh, like a middle split?
Like a middle split.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
See, just don't hurt your vagina. That's all.
Right.
So where was I? Okay. So
weight accountability for the wedding.
Yes. And that might work for some people, but I just always was so resentful of her. I was so resentful.
It has to be also if you're the person saying, hey, I want to work out more. Can you be my accountability person? Versus somebody putting that on you. Hey, we're all going to lose weight. Well, I didn't decide this.
We're all going to lose weight for my sister's wedding. Like,
Or
why do I need to be
start
skinny
another
for
person's event?
Yeah, like it's ridiculous to think about, but I really thought to myself, and you know what? At that point, I was just annoyed. I was always resentful of comments like that because I was like, I'm smart. Don't treat me like I'm dumb. Don't treat me like I don't know you're talking about me. I know that you're talking about
me. I might be invisible, but I'm not stupid.
Thank you. And then the next thing that we had to do was go try on the bridesmaids' dresses. So they take me to this little bridal boutique in Manhattan, and it's just me. I'm like, I don't know why I'm the model for all the bridesmaids, but okay. And I'm trying on all these dresses, and I hear my mom say to the salesperson, you know, do we have anything that could like hide? I feel like that would be good because it would like hide her belly. Like it would really like cover all of that problem area. You know, the way she was talking about it, I could hear everything. I was in the dressing room, but I could hear her. She's talking
so sorry.
I mean, it's okay. I've made peace with this stuff, but I just had this moment that was just like, damn, you know, everybody else gets to shop and they get to show off things about themselves. And for me, it's all about what can we hide?
Yes.
And then I went back to school that semester. It was either first or second. I guess it was second semester senior year. And I was just like, I'm going to lose weight for this wedding. Like, because I didn't want to feel uncomfortable. I just got to a point where I was just like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I don't want, you know, my mom to think less of me anymore. And for people
Weddings
to think
too, like, it's like so toxic. Like the bride is always shedding for the wedding. Right. So, but then it's about the photos and like, does everybody, like, I remember having, I think I still feel that I'm not worthy of a wedding because I'm like, but I don't look like what a bride.
And I got to say, like. I totally get that. Like, I totally get that. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I've always said, I really am not sure that I want to get married. I'm not sure that I want more than 100 people staring at me and judging me. It's not a good feeling for me. But and also, I went to a wedding very recently where it was very clear that the bride had been starving herself for quite some time. And all that people kept talking about all night is how gorgeous she looked. And and I was just like, guys, do you not see what's right in front of you? I'm at a loss right now. Like, and you can't say anything. And you know that it's what you're supposed to say to the bride, but come on. So...
Did you get that kind of reaction when you got sick?
What did you say?
Did you get a similar reaction when you got sick? Like, were people complimenting you for?
Yeah, definitely. I think at first I looked healthy. Well, so I went to school and I downloaded my Fitness Pal, which we talked about on a recent episode of DST2. My Fitness Pal is fucking awful. And it tells you to eat 1,200 calories a day, which is not enough for anybody unless you're a toddler. And also probably not even for a toddler. And I started exercising every day. I mean, every single day, no days off. And I lost about 60 pounds. And then we ordered the bridesmaid's dress. Originally, when I tried it on, we ordered it in a size 16 and it had to be cut in half and sewed together. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And was your mom
and by the way, what did you say?
I said, was your mom so happy?
Thrilled. Like everybody was happy about it. And this is another thing. It's like people pleasing behavior. I was like, I can never put this weight back on because I'm going to look like a failure. And this attention is going to be taken away from me again. And that's going to feel even worse.
Do you worry about it now? Because you're still quite small.
I don't worry about it now. And that's not to say, I mean, I am pretty small right now. I know that my body will probably change. especially if I have kids. I know that it's going to change. And it's hard for me to say how I'm going to feel about that in the future. But I'm working really hard to not let it affect me. I'm working really hard to not fall back into bad habits. Because after I lost the weight, I mean, that was the number one thing. I read this statistic online that said something like 80% of people who lose a certain amount of weight will gain it back within 5 years. So I was waiting for that 5-year mark. And I was like, I cannot gain any weight. I really can't. But then at a certain point I plateaued and I wasn't losing any more weight. I think I might have actually gained a little bit of weight because my calorie intake was so low when I was dieting. So I just kept restricting more and more. And I would say what my goal was always to be anorexic. That was always my goal. But it got to a point where it was really tough for me to live. Like I just didn't have a lot of energy. It was not to be dramatic, but it was a living hell. So then I discovered bulimia. And it was kind of like this magic solution. It was kind of like, wow, I can actually eat some things that I like sometimes, but I'll just get rid of it later. And then I got addicted to that. I got addicted to the feeling of being empty. I got addicted to the act of purging. It was really terrible. I mean, I had dentists ask me if I was making myself throw up because it was whittling down my tooth enamel. I had stomach problems. My throat was always sore. It just wasn't a good situation.
And so mentally, you were probably always thinking about it too.
Always thinking about it. And the biggest common experience that I've had with other people who've gone through eating disorders is the isolation. I would isolate all the time. I would always be afraid to go see people because I didn't want to act like a weirdo. At a certain point, you know that what you're doing is unhealthy and you know the damage that you're doing and how crazy it looks. And you don't want to be that person, but you are. So you start isolating from people. I mean, I couldn't connect with other people. It was a really, really lonely time. So I started going to this eating disorder therapy group and with the EDRC, which is in New York, and they have a lot of good programs. If anyone's interested, just look up EDRC. And then from that group therapy, I found another therapist who specialized in eating disorders. So then I started going to see her, and she didn't have, like, she wasn't, how do I say this? Like, I lied to her a lot. I still don't think I was in the place to fully recover at that point. But something that she did for me that I did keep up with was she taught me about intuitive eating. There is a book called Intuitive Eating by Elise Reich and Evelyn Tribole, and it's used a lot in eating disorder recovery. And there are 10 principles in the first season, RIP Diets, and I go through all the principles and like kind of try to talk about it in a way that's easy to understand. But basically, it's getting rid of all food rules, getting rid of all food judgment.
Listening to your body.
There are other things like listening to your hunger cues, you know, honoring your cravings. If you want a chocolate bar, don't eat cacao nibs instead. Eat the chocolate bar. You know, like very common sense things. A lot of the time when I tell people about it, if they've never heard about it, they just think, that sounds like the way that normal people eat. And in a way it kind of is.
Bless you if that's how you eat. That's really lovely. Like that's how it should be. Everybody should be eating intuitively. I think it's also like, don't assign negative morals to various foods or something like that, right?
There are no good foods and there are no good bad foods.
No bad foods. Like
food is fuel.
I feel like when I started intuitive eating, I wasn't looking into the rules or anything. I was just, somebody said it on some podcast. Oh, like I'm just eating what my body wants and I'm honoring those cravings. And blah, blah. And I remember when I started doing it going, ooh, I'm craving eggs. Well, that's really good. That's really good that I'm craving, so even like checking during that process. So I'm very excited to be able to go through this with you. I have obviously never been hospitalized, but that the thinking aspect, like I feel I'm in my own living hell in my head, no matter where my body has been. I'm at the highest I've ever been right now in my weight. I'm trying to get more comfortable with that. I'm trying to not let that stop me from moving forward in my career. I think I really did let like my perception of me and other people's potential perception of me guide, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing stuff where you see my face all the time. Like I felt really safe behind How Come because it is only audio. And now we're opening ourselves up to internet comments and stuff. And it is part of life that people are going to say stuff, but it's going to be part of my healing to not let it affect me. To not have those same thoughts about myself first.
Yeah. I think what's really unfortunate is that we're just regular gals, and we have body image issues, but we're also entertainers. And the industry is such that you need to record yourself. You need to be putting yourself out there all the time. So there is that other aspect too. That's like, well, if somebody wrote in and said, what should I do on a bad body image day? I might say, cover all your mirrors, put on comfy clothes. Don't go see people if you don't want to see people. Like I say that stuff a lot, just give yourself some soft time, and don't read into it too much.
You can't say that to me if we're coming in to record. And I literally said to you, I'm having a horrible day. Can we turn the cameras off today? And thankfully we have a team that goes, we can do that some days. Like, don't worry about that. So that's nice, but it's also, it'd be nice to get past it.
Yeah. And also you want people to be able to discover you. You want to be out there. It's ingrained in you to pick apart everything you see on the video.
It's also ingrained in me to judge other entertainers. Like I told you this, like some people I'd go, how dare they think they could be in entertainment without being perfect looking? Just because I've heard other people say that about other people for such a long time. And like, I'm like, that's not how, like, how do you have the gall?
Right. Like if anything, you should be proud of them. Like, wow, that person must be so fucking talented.
Yeah.
This is why I am just so thankful that we got this opportunity because it truly is, it informs every part of my life. It's not just an experience that I had, it's my identity. And that was another hard thing, like losing weight and being like, wow, I'm a skinny girl and I'm walking around with this fat girl mentality. And I feel like nobody understands. So it's
like
nice
an insecure mentality.
Yeah. Like not wanting to take up space, not wanting not wanting to expose myself.
All of these are very female things though, too.
Totally. And that probably has something to do with it. No, but I agree with you. I think it's great that we have a really sensitive team who understands. They're actually listening to us, which is great. And we have the time and space to really explore how your body is not just your body. I mean, it is just your body. It is just a meat sack that you're living in, right? But it's also your identity as a woman. It is. It's ingrained in you. And to expect somebody to just ignore that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So we're going to get to the bottom of it.
Totally. And I was saying earlier that I think that this experience will help me sexually as well, help me enjoy things more instead of thinking, oh, I look this way, or what are they seeing? Has your body image ever gotten in the way of your sexuality?
Yes, I would say so. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 20, almost 21.
But you masturbated before that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was masturbating since age 8 or something.
So self-love wasn't effective.
No.
I mean, in a one way.
Well, This is a really weird thing. I mean, this is not really related to what we were talking about, but I feel like I was not, this is the wrong word. I wasn't sexualized from a young age. I was exposed to a lot of sexual content from a very young age, which is probably kind of common for people who grew up in the 90s because, you know, the internet was so new and there weren't as many parental restrictions and whatever. I mean, I was on the internet just seeing
Curious
things
cat.
I shouldn't see. Yeah. But also my mom would watch like those Cinemax movies.
Sure.
She would be in the living room and by the way, she would fall asleep in the middle of all of them. I have a very strong memory and I've tried to find this movie just by typing in keywords and I can't because they're too generic. But it was at a beach house and there was like a woman who got invited to go to a beach house with this guy and they fuck on a pool table. And I was watching this while my mom was asleep next to me at age 9.
I'm dying.
So like, there was no way I wasn't going to be an obsessive masturbator. You know what I mean? I didn't.
No, but that's good.
Chance.
I will say, I feel like even still, I get in my own way when I'm masturbating now. Like I'm going through a massive orgasm drought. And
really?
Yes. And I think it's because I'm so uncomfortable in my body. Like I know that there's other stress factors going on too, but I'm just noticing things about me when I'm in certain positions. I've noticed like if I try to do it with my hand, I'm very conscious of my body and it like, I think takes me out of it. So it's nice that it didn't do that for you.
No, you know, it was like one of the only things I had.
That's great.
but I have always, I mean, here's something about me. I don't really like boys. Like, I mean, romantically, I guess I like them, but I like don't talk to boys. The fact that I have a serious boyfriend is like really random. And I think a lot of that goes back to I didn't trust men. I didn't grow up with my dad in my house because my parents were divorced and I didn't see him very often. My mom had boyfriends, none of who I trusted. And then she remarried when I was 10 and I did not like my stepfather very much. So I think all of these things contributed to me really not trusting men, really not being able to talk to men. I mean, I still like, I'll give you an example. Like our producer, Sean, most gentle man, like gentle, sweet, kind, lovely.
Has been dating his high school sweetheart for like 20 years.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, I like swooned when he told us that.
I was like, oh, I feel safe. Like I didn't actually feel safe until that moment.
Yes. And you know, that's so funny. No, but it's true. And I think I even noticed moments with him and, I also have trouble with authority figures. So maybe that's part of it, but you know, he'll tell me something and I'll get like choked up for a second. Like I do have this mental block when it comes to relating to men.
But wait, he'll tell you something like what?
Even he'll come up and be like, "Oh, that idea that you had," and I go like, "Oh fuck!
Oh, was it bad?" Yeah.
And then he'll be like, "That will do really well." Yeah. But like, I just can't, or even when we're having a conversation, I'm always thinking like, what am I going to say if I don't know what to say? It's always like, if, I run into this a lot when, because my boyfriend was in a fraternity. So a lot of his fraternity brothers will show up from time to time. When I'm talking to them, I'm like, what do we have to talk about? I don't even know. I've always just been such a girl's girl and I've never known what to say to a man. I just don't. I can't relate to them in any way.
I can help you with that.
Thank you. I could use some help.
We have some very nice men on How Come. I will say it's been like exposure therapy for me. You know,
oh, that's nice.
Oh, like there are some really good ones.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm very wary of certain men for good reason, but I do think,
too. Yeah.
You know, I think growing up and just never feeling like boys liked me, never feeling like, you know, when I was in middle school, I I'm like the hot girl whisperer. So I always had friends who were hot. I was friends with this girl named Meredith, and she was like the school sleut. And
the school self-empowered?
Exactly. The school sexually explorative.
Yes.
And we were friends, and she used to take me to go meet up with boys, and we went to see the movie Without a Paddle twice.
Okay.
Which you shouldn't even see once.
Never have, won't.
Are familiar. And we went to meet up with these boys, and the boy like made me switch seats with him, or like switch seats with the other guys so he didn't have to sit next to me. And like, so I just never felt attractive. I never felt wanted. I always felt really judged by men. So it was like when I got to college, I really wanted to lose my virginity. I didn't want to be like, you know, a loser, because that was my perception. Now I know that it's very common to not lose your virginity until 20 or 21. That's not even that old. But at the time, I thought it's a construct. But I know so many girls now that it took longer than that for them. And I don't know why.
Too. We've had guys. We had a fucking. How old was Ray? 40 when he lost his virginity.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've met guys who have lost it later too, and I think comedians also. You know, we all have our own thing, but So I was just like, kind of trying to be a slut, like trying to get rid of my virginity, and I lost my virginity. I lost my virginity to my friend's cousin.
Okay,
and we had this thing going on where I would show up at their house after hours, like after everybody fell asleep, and we would like fuck on their couch. It was really fucked up. But at the time I was like, I don't, and he was also a lot older. It was not the best situation, but
I'm sorry, man.
It's fine. But like, that's what I thought I could get. Do you know what I mean? Like I just had very low self-esteem.
You were like, I've never even been talked to by a guy, so
and like
these
this guy
dregs,
was nice to
I'll
me,
take them. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think it wasn't until I was able to achieve confidence in my own body that I was like, oh yeah, I don't care what my body looks like during sex. I don't care. I really don't think about it anymore now, but it used to really be a problem for me. It really was, because I was afraid of being judged even if I said hi to a guy.
Yeah.
Forget, being naked.
Yeah. It's really cool that you're at that place though, where you don't think about it.
It's amazing. I mean, it amazes me.
I feel like such a faker hosting this podcast sometimes, because I'm telling people, be confident, love your body. You're never going to squirt if you don't fully relax. Let your pooch hang out. Like we've literally had episodes saying that. And I'm like, I can't even do that for myself yet.
I know, but I do think there's a humility in admitting to not being perfect.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way on my show. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should share that I have a negative body image moment, because I don't know, what if that makes people feel bad? Or
I told you about the episode with Maddie where we were doing How Body Negative and talking about all the things that we don't like about ourselves. And a lot of people resonated with it. And then some people were like, oh shit, I never even thought to be insecure about these things. And I'm like, well, I feel so bad about that. So I know that we're going to end up saying things that do make people feel a certain type of way. Nothing that we say about ourselves is a judgment on you. So just know that.
Yeah.
But this, I think it will be very similar to how come was this learning journey for me? I said really stupid things. I asked really stupid questions, but I had really smart people to give me answers and other anecdotes and things about how they live that like have taught all of us. And like the listeners have taught us stuff. Like I can't wait for just that to be an experience for Diet Starts Tomorrow as well.
Oh my God, me too. I'm so psyched to hear from the listeners too.
Yeah.
Guys, if you like Remy and you like this show and you're a companion, you're going to love DST. Just subscribe. It don't cost nothing.
Don't cost nothing.
Don't cost nothing. And maybe even if you don't get around to it right away, we're going to have so many different topics and so many different guests. You're bound to see something that you're interested in and you'll give it a try.
Yeah. What's so funny is I've gotten a lot of messages from people I know finally telling me, oh my God, I just listened to the first episode. It's so good or whatever. And I'm like, wait, people can actually admit that they listened to this one to me. Because with how come they're like, I don't want to admit that I'm listening to your cum journey.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've kind of had a similar experience where like people are reposting images of me in the studio. And I'm kind of like, where were you 7 years ago when I was podcasting? And you were like, not interested at all, but you know what? We paid our dues.
We paid our dues.
Yeah. And that's how it works.
Yeah, you guys, listen to Diet Starts Tomorrow. I do want to talk about one more topic because we're coming off the heels of Halloween and we're not going to be able to talk about this on DST because we've already recorded so many episodes and Halloween will be an afterthought at that point. So how is Halloween to you from a body perspective?
I used to love Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm at that age now where I'm kind of like, it doesn't get me that excited or jazzed the way that it used to. I feel like once I have children, that will probably reinvigorate the love for Halloween that I used to have. But as an adult, I feel like it's all about going to parties and having the best costume and drinking. And I'm not really into any of that stuff. So I kind of just have gotten to the point where like I watched the movie Barbarian on Halloween and that was the perfect way to spend my Halloween. I mean, I also went trick-or-treating with my nephews for a little bit, which was fun, but in general, like it's not my favorite holiday.
It's not a big deal to you. Okay. So
it's not such a big deal.
Halloween for me is the one night a year where a girl can dress like a total slut or can reveal their creativity. Halloween has always been a very fun thing to me. I love to dress up with an excuse. I love to show off, parts of my body that usually, crop tops weren't a thing for a really long time, but you could wear a unitard on Halloween and show off, the parts of you that you like that are normally covered. So I had this, I'd always get very excited to be hot or creative for Halloween, but then it would be coupled with, I'd buy my costume and then the rest of the time leading up to Halloween would be me trying not to gain weight for that costume. And without fail, because I was thinking about it more than ever, I would gain so much weight. And every Halloween I would get so scared that I'm not going to fit into this thing or that it's going to look wrong. And that, this year specifically, I think I don't want to give like a number, but a considerable amount. I'm heavier than I've ever been. I'm very uncomfortable. I don't fit in most of my clothes. And I had this costume that I bought last year and I was so, oh my God, is it going to look okay? Am I going to have to face tune it or whatever? And now we've started this podcast where I don't want to face tune. I want to.
Yeah. I mean, you'll get called out if you do.
Yeah, but I don't want to do it because I don't want to preach something that I don't believe is good for all of us.
I don't want to do it either. And I will say I do not alter my body in any of my photos. But I've had that moment too where I'm like, oh, like, am I presenting myself in a way that I feel like is more attractive to people, or like, am I not showing certain things or only showing like certain angles of my face and like stuff like that? And I don't know, like I keep going back and forth about it.
Is it okay to look better in photos than you do in real life?
Yeah.
I don't
and
know.
The thing is, like,
I don't know.
I don't even think I do. Well, okay. This is the point that I'm getting to. I think Facetune is okay if you got a zit. If you want to, remove I used it the other day to remove a leaf from my pants because it was bothering me. I'll use it sometimes to, like, if there's a hair in my eye or something, I'll blur it out. Like I do little tricks to make the photo look better, but I'm not altering anything on my body or like altering my face. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So in that instance, I feel like that's what Facetune should be for. It's a photo editing app. It's to make your photo look a little nicer, a little more professional. But
it's not to give yourself surgery.
Right. It's not to give yourself surgery or make it seem like you have the longest arms in the world,
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not a good thing to do because it perpetuates an incorrect image of yourself to other people, but it also distorts your own self-image.
Right. So, okay. I was locked out of Instagram for a month leading up until our launch or whatever, which was like the other day. And I could only get into How Come. And I was looking at my personal account from How Come's account and going, I got to take that down. That I know I Facetuned my arms. I got to take that down. That doesn't look like me. I have to take this down or whatever. And I did that as soon as I got in, except for I didn't take down my Halloween costume from last year because it is so Facetuned that I want to showcase the difference between last year and this year. I posted my costume. I did feel beautiful in it. I felt
you
really
looked gorgeous.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was a little snug because I had bought it a year before. So I was a little physically uncomfortable, but I felt really good. I took some pictures. I put them up, no Facetune at all.
No, and they were I saw them. They were very in the moment. So I really like that. I have a question though. Was last year when you went as Promising Young Woman?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that those photos were Facetuned.
Yeah. So if you go to my page, you'll see the first picture of that one. My face, my little cousin did it in some Facetune thing. I don't have the same lips. She changed my eyes.
Your cousin did it?
Yeah, I asked her to.
Wait, how old is your cousin?
She's 29.
Okay, I was imagining like a 14-year-old girl.
Like a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, she is 14 in her mind.
Yeah.
But she's also a full adult. And yeah, I didn't feel comfortable putting it up last year until it was tuned to perfection. Did it get a lot of comments? Hell yeah, it did. It fucking murdered. Did my post this year do much worse? Yes, it did. Am I feeling like maybe it's because I didn't change things?
Well,
yeah.
Okay,
maybe.
but also don't underestimate how the algorithm has changed.
Totally. And if you guys want to leave a comment now and say I look good, do it. Boost
go
it.
show support.
But
for her big old titties and that corset top.
It wasn't even a corset.
Okay, but it had that look.
Just big.
But you know what I mean. It has that look. It's like a medieval style gown.
Yes. But like, I would have tuned my arms in. This is the first time you are going to see my real arms from various angles. And for a lot of people, they might be like, okay, cool, big whoop. And a lot of people are like, okay, Remy, like your body is still something that like I would want, like,
right.
You shouldn't
still
feel
live in
insecure
a very
about.
Acceptable and dare I say it, desirable body.
Yeah. A gorgeous figure, as Nanny would say.
Oh, I love Nanny.
But this was a big step for me. So I'm just trying to enjoy the little win.
I'm proud of you. I think that's awesome. When I saw them, I'm trying to think of how to word this. It's not that I thought you looked bigger or anything like that, but I did see them and I was like, oh, that's cool. She did kind of like Candids. Like I saw them and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like she did. Cause like I said, I really like that look. I just feel like it's more authentic. So good on you for doing that.
Thanks.
Yeah. And I really think the less you use Facetune, the less you feel like you need to.
Totally. And you also don't want to do what I was doing, which is going back and looking at pictures of yourself and going, I never looked like that.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
It just creates an impossible standard for you for the future because it never existed.
It never existed. And does this happen to you? Like you'll Facetune something and then you'll forget that you did.
Yes.
And then you'll see it and be like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
I really took a turn.
Yeah.
And that is the perfect synopsis of why you shouldn't do it. Because like, even the person who edited that photo can still look at it a few months later and be like, oh, whoa.
Right.
Why don't I look like that?
Right.
And it's you.
And
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But this and so much more, you guys.
Yes. So much more to come.
So much more to come. Emily, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Lubination on social media. Hit me up there, slide in my DMs. You'll be able to see everything that I'm working on.
Yeah. You can follow me at Remy Casimir. You can follow How Come at How Come Podcast. And you can also follow Diet Starts Tomorrow and find us both. Episodes are twice a week.
Yeah.
So if you've been like, wow, How Come's been really slow, I just want to listen to Remy and Emily, that's where you can go.
Yeah. I love that it's twice a week too, because I feel like when it's a week, you have to wait so long to get into what you want to get into. And this way we can save up and then just like really go ham on those 2 episodes.
So you can send your questions to Diet Starts Tomorrow. You can send them to me. You can send them to Emily, whoever you want to address it to. If you want us to both answer them, whatever. We're really excited. I know a bunch of companions are going to be on this same journey with us, and I'm excited for them to come on over.
Oh, I'm excited too. I love you guys. Truly.
Emily, I have to ask you this question, as you know. Did you finish?
Not only did I finish, I'm super satisfied.
Oh, I love to hear it. I'm satisfied too. Thank you for coming back.
Of course.
This episode has been a treat. Go check out Diet Starts Tomorrow. Again, check out Emily, check out Robin, just sitting in the UK, having a lot of fun that we'll talk about on patreon.com/howcome.
All the fun.
All the fun. Wait, can you give it a spoiler?
It involves a harness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about a saddle vibrator? Like a wait, what's that thing called? The motor bunny? What?
Not quite. I know.
Yeah.
The Sibian?
It's right here. No.
Oh my! I thought you really had it behind you.
She's got a vaulting horse in her house now.
Well, I used to love to watch those Howard Stern segments where they would make like Carmen Electra get on the
Sibian.
So
I don't know how I feel about that now. Yeah.
No, I don't like it now. But when I was younger, I would watch them all the time because it was like, ooh, how racist.
I don't know if I sent this to you, but actually Howard Stern, I came across a TikTok of him laying into somebody about their weight.
Yeah, he's kind of the worst. He's kind of the worst.
And I remember thinking, well, this is very bad for a sex podcaster.
Yeah.
You know, this is how a lot of people have been raised, with sex and weight intertwined. So that's no good. Maybe Howard, you've done better now. I don't know, Howard.
Come on the pod. Let's talk
Come on
to
the
Howard.
pod. We could talk to Howard.
Not out of the question.
No, definitely not. Anyway, you guys, we could stay all day. We will not. Love you so much. So excited to start this journey. Robin, excited to start hearing about your harness journey.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Me too, honestly. I need a password to that Patreon.
Well, it's only $5 a month, you guys.
Pay for it. I'll support the arts.
Support the arts. Eat a really yummy something today.
Yes.
And just enjoy it. You know, the way that you have your orgasms. Now let's have some mouthgasms.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all right. All right, you guys. See you next time on How Come.
Bye.
Bye.
It's not you, it's me. I try so hard to finish honestly. They say you'll know when you go all the way from A right down to O. Oh no, I think that I still still got a ways to go. Oh, I'm sick of this and I have got to know. How come I can't achieve? How come I can't achieve? I'm rolling up my sleeves. Oh baby, I believe these guests can help. 'Cause I can't do it by myself. I wanna jizz.
This Marvel section has House of Dragon spoilers and also trigger warning. There's a lot of assault talk, so get ready for that.
Hello.
Oh, it's so cold. Okay. Hi, guys. We forgot to mention why I brought up my costume. It wasn't just that I didn't Facetune it. So as I was saying, Halloween is a time to look sexy, but also be creative. And this year I thought my costume was both because I was Alicent Hightower. So a high version of the Queen of Westeros from, House of Dragons. And I had shoes that looked like feet.
Yes.
To give a nod to Alicent showing her feet for favors in an episode of House of Dragon.
Amazing.
Spoiler alert if you don't watch House of Dragon.
I don't.
Yeah, apparently a lot of people don't. I was expecting a lot of fanfare for my costume, and everyone was like, yeah, I'm the only person who doesn't watch that show. I'm like, you're the seventh person to say that in this room.
You're the seventh only person.
Yeah. So, and I thought it was funny and that it would be like a nod to what happened in the show. And I thought it would be more of a conversation starter, like Promising Young Woman was. So here's my long and short spiel, and maybe we'll get somebody else to talk about it eventually, or maybe never. But basically, House of Dragon and Game of Thrones, I never watched Game of Thrones because I was like, there's too much rape and incest in this. Like, I cannot watch it. And it's really slow. But House of Dragon moves faster.
It's a fucking slow burner.
It's like 6 years moves every episode. So I was like, okay, I can do this one. However, there is still rape. There is still incest. In fact, the incest and the violence, like one of the hottest scenes that people were like obsessed with was this uncle, Damon, taking his niece, Rhaenyra, of 16 to a whorehouse, basically, or like a sex party, strangling her at the sex party. And everyone's like, oh my God, I'm so horny. And then like,
oh my God.
Episodes later, the queen is just taking off her shoes and socks for this guy. And he's looking at him and he's masturbating to them. And like people were horrified. Like everyone was like, incest, great. Rape, fine. And then they were like, feet, no. Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. And I was talking to another sex podcaster that I ran into at one of the parties. And I was like, is this me kink shaming since I'm like doing a nod to the feet?
Right.
And she goes, I don't think so, because it's so common.
Yeah, I don't think it's kink shaming.
Like
it is very common.
That's the thing too, is like how, I mean, I guess incest is more common, unfortunately, but like, how is that not more something to be ashamed of? How is rape culture still something that like, I mean, obviously we're against it, but like, I just thought the juxtaposition of people's response to those two things versus feet.
I'm just looking into it.
Googling.
That 10% of American families, so authorities estimate incest occurs in over 10% of American families, yet only 20% of those offenses are reported. And then I'm trying to see 5% of heterosexual women, 18% of heterosexual men, 11% of lesbian and bisexual women, 21% of gay and bisexual men have foot fetish. So it's like,
wow,
it's quite common.
Yeah, coming.
It's coming. And so are you, if you like feet.
Emily, actually, before we recorded, I told her I wanted to talk about House of Dragon. She's like, I don't watch it, but I do know somebody who married their cousin, so I can speak to that. And I don't want to know really if the relationship's good. Or I don't know. I feel like a third cousin may be different, but like I know my third cousins. I don't want to be in a relationship with anyone in my family.
Yeah, no, I'm not out here trying to date my cousins.
No disrespect, but kind of disrespect. Like if people are this about foot fetishes, and I don't even have one, I'm gonna be about incest.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's not even like it's like most of the things that I've heard is like grooming and like assault. And I do have a friend who's written about her experiences of being assaulted by her dad for years. She like sent me her book way, way early and how come, but I was like, I'm not equipped to talk about this.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something that we will build up to. And I've been following a lot of survivors from incestuous assaults on TikTok, learning a lot more about that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, I just think it's crazy that the show framed, maybe, I don't know even if the show was trying to frame it in a disgusting way, maybe because the guy who was doing it is gross. There's nothing attractive about him. He doesn't have an attractive personality. I think they like put scabs on his face and makeup. So I think that the show was trying to be like, ooh, look how creepy. Whereas this uncle assaulting his niece is the hottest thing I've ever seen, how they framed it. You know, like I've got such a crush on this man now. And I'm also like, ew, he's killed his wives and he strangled his niece. Like, I hate this.
I shouldn't like it, but
yeah.
That scene.
But yeah, so just curious about how media thinks that the incest is okay because of bloodlines, but like, or I guess in this show it's because of bloodlines.
Right. I mean like the royal family too. Yeah. Right. They like touch on it, brush it under the carpet.
Yeah.
Stress. How can we be like so okay with it if it's the royal family and be like, yeah, they're royal, but then there's all the like Sweet Home Alabama memes and all of that stuff. Like how is one different than the other? It's the exact same thing.
Yeah. And I also think with Sweet Home Alabama, it's still not shaming people for the assault aspect of it. It's being like, oh, look at these gross cousins. Like as if both people have active parts in it.
Consent.
Which I think most of the time probably not. But again, it's something that we have to look into. But like, okay, versus feet. We've all got feet.
Yeah. We do. Some of us have too.
But yeah, so my post, as I said, did not get as many likes or comments as Halloween's past. And so I'm in this little weird brain space of, does everyone just not watch House of Dragon, or is it because I didn't Facetune my arms?
No.
And yeah, so if you want to give me an extra boost and just tell me that you thought the costume was clever or whatever. I've never asked for comments, but I really don't want to archive it. And it's embarrassing at this point.
No, it was good. It was good. It was creative.
Yeah. I also think maybe people didn't comment because we had such a long line of like, guess this costume the day before.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, nobody guessed my costume. Can you? And everyone's like, no. And there were so many guesses. And everyone's like, oh yeah, we don't watch House of Dragon. And I was like, no, why?
Nice.
All right. I really have to run. We will hear about your escapades so soon, but I owe this episode today and I have a meeting right now. And so maybe tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning would be dope.
Okay. Expect that, team.
Coolies. Have a good one.
Love ya.
Love you.
Miss you.
Miss you. Bye.